before memory, before the first name was spoken, before the first heartbeat echoed across flesh and bone, there was silence. Not the silence of empty rooms or sleeping forests or breath held in fear, but a silence so complete, so absolute, that even the idea of sound had never existed. Time was not yet moving, space had not yet awakened. There was only the stillness, endless and unknowable. And yet, something waited within that darkness, not alive, not dead, neither potential nor void, but the dream of both. A long, immeasurable moment passed, or perhaps no moment passed at all. Then, a tremor, small, almost shy, a ripple in the nothingness. From that ripple emerged chaos, a swirling mass of possibility without form or purpose. It churned like a storm of smoke and shattered mirrors, collapsing inward and exploding outward in the same breath. And from chaos, as though compelled by opposition, came ether, a radiant presence of order, symmetry, and calm. Where chaos writhed, ether glowed. Where ether steadied, chaos shattered. They did not speak, for speech did not exist. They did not think, for thought had not yet been born. But they clashed, slowly at first, like two opposing tides meeting on an unseen shore, then violently, as if all the fury of creation demanded to exist at once. Their collision ignited the first light, a flame without heat, a star without form, a wound in the infinite dark, from which the titans emerged. The first was Vorithos, titan of the void, a figure shaped from abyssal darkness, tall as mountains that had not yet been carved. His eyes were empty hollows, yet galaxies swirled faintly within them. Next came Piraith, titan of flame, fire made flesh, his veins glowing like molten rivers beneath obsidian skin. Then Tyrannus, titan of stone and winter, cold, immovable, carved in patience and inevitability. Then Zephyra, titaness of wind and spirit. A presence cloaked in mist, her voice the first whisper to ever break the perfect silence. More rose, star-eaters, storm-callers, time-weavers, beings whose shadows alone could swallow continents yet unborn. They did not speak, they did not question, they created. With hands both gentle and violent, they carved existence from the raw chaos of newborn reality. Mountains rose at their passing, oceans filled the footprints they left behind, stars kindled like lanterns forgotten in an endless night. Yet, as creation expanded, so too did something else, something quiet, something patient, ambition. For in the depths of the young cosmos, within the silent spaces between stars, a thought formed, not spoken, not shared, merely known. If creation exists, then someone must rule it. And thus, the seeds of destiny and destruction took root. Creation expanded, worlds formed from shattered starlight. Oceans roared into existence. The first winds howled across barren stone, and the titans walked among it all. Silent custodians of a reality still raw and trembling. Yet creation did not bring harmony. With every mountain raised, with every star lit, something ancient and unspoken grew within them. Hierarchy. Some titans soared higher, their influence stretching across constellations. Others remained small, not in power, but in presence. And among them all, one watched more carefully than the rest. Morvok, titan of shadow, dominion, and thought. The first being to ponder existence rather than merely move through it. Where other titans forged mountains, Morvok forged questions. Where others commanded storms, Morvok commanded silence. And from silence, he listened. He listened to the shifting cosmos, to the breaths of his siblings, to the unseen boundaries forming around power. He listened and understood what others could not. Creation had direction, and direction implied purpose, and purpose demanded a ruler, but ruler was not yet a word, not yet a concept, not yet a throne. So instead, Morvok shaped a symbol, a towering monolith of black stone, etched with runes the universe itself flinched to recognize. No titan questioned it, for they did not yet understand the meaning of authority. But the cosmos did. Stars dimmed near it. Winds hushed when passing its shadow. The very fabric of reality bent slightly, subtly, as if acknowledging something inevitable. That monolith became the first throne, not one to sit upon, but one to be recognized by. Some titans gazed upon it and felt nothing. Others looked and felt unease. But one, Pyrith, titan of flame, looked upon that dark monument and felt something else. Challenge. His fire roared higher, brighter, casting long, molten shadows across Morvac's creation. Where darkness stood, flame answered. Where unspoken dominion whispered, inferno roared. It was the first moment in all the ages before time that silence shattered without purpose. And Morvac smiled, not with lips, for Titans had no need for such mortal gestures, but with presence, a shift in the void around him, a subtle tightening of gravity and fate. For in Pyrith's defiance, Morvac heard something profound, not rebellion, not anger, but recognition. The concept of opposition had been born, and once a thing exists, it cannot be undone. The cosmos darkened slightly, not in light, but in meaning. A new force took shape within reality, not fire, nor ice, nor void. Conflict, a thing both powerful and patient, a force that had no beginning, yet now had purpose. And somewhere beyond mortal understanding, where echoes of fate breathed like distant waves, the universe whispered, "The war has already begun." Conflict had entered existence, quiet and patient, yet undeniable. Though no titan spoke, the cosmos felt the shift. Stars flickered uneasily. Mountains groaned beneath unseen weight. The newly formed winds carried whispers that had no speaker. And in the heart of it all, Morvac moved, titan of shadow, titan of dominion, titan of thought. While others shaped worlds without meaning, Morvac shaped intention. He understood a truth none of his siblings yet perceived. Power is not measured by strength, but by obedience. And so Morvac reached his hands, not to mountains, oceans, fire, or storm, but into the stillness between them, into the unseen spaces where possibility slumbered. There, he carved, not stone, not matter, not light, but will. The shadows thickened, coalescing around his form, taking shape like beasts remembering ancient instincts. 6 figures emerged, tall, silent, souls forged from darkness itself. Not titans, but something lesser, and yet more dangerous. Servants, the first legion. Their forms shifted like smoke and nightmare. Eyes burned with hollow, unending hunger. They possessed no voice because they required none. They existed to obey. When the other titans beheld them, they paused, not in fear, for fear was not yet known, but in recognition. A change had occurred. A boundary had been crossed. The universe held its breath. Pyrith's flames burned hotter, casting furious crimson across the sky. His essence trembled, not with doubt, but with instinctive rejection. For the first legion was not creation. It was control, and control demanded hierarchy. Hierarchy implied difference. Difference eventually demanded dominance. Tyrannus, titan of stone and winter, watched silently. No expression, no judgment. But deep within him, a truth began to awaken. If one titan commands, then one titan may conquer. Zephyra, titaness of wind and spirit, drifted closer to the shadows. She hovered near the new beings, her form shifting with curiosity and caution. She whispered, not words, but meaning. Why shape servants? Morvac did not answer. Instead, his shadows turned to her, not hostile, not welcoming, but aware. Zephyra drifted back, and the winds around her carried a new sound, the first hint of fear, a concept that would linger long after stars turned to ash. And then, slowly, inevitably, the other titans understood, not with thought, not with speech, but with the same primal certainty that stars know how to burn. Morvac had changed the laws of existence. Creation was no longer a canvas, it was a claim. For the first time in the silent age before time, there was ownership. And with ownership comes jealousy. With jealousy comes ambition. With ambition comes war. The shadows thickened. Pyrith's flames roared. Storms gathered around the edges of eternity. Mountains trembled. The universe shuddered as it prepared for a truth older than mortals would ever understand. Nothing that exists remains shared forever. And somewhere beyond fate, in realms not yet born, prophecy stirred. Where titans raise armies, empires will follow. Where empires rise, rebellion will bloom. And where rebellion blooms, eternity bleeds. Silence stretched across creation, but it was no longer the ancient silence of before time. This silence was waiting, watching, measuring. For where Morvac had shaped obedience, another force awakened in answer. One older than hierarchy, older than fear, older even than dominion. Defiance. Pyrith, titan of flame, whose very existence was movement and eruption, stood before Morvac's dark monument. Fire coiled around him like serpents of molten vengeance. Every flare of his essence scorched the sky and fused sand into black glass beneath his feet. He did not think. Titans did not think. Yet thought began to form, like molten ore cooling into shape, and that shape was rebellion. Pyrith extended his burning hand toward the void, where energy and potential swirled like wounded stars. From fire, he drew force. From chaos, he drew form. From raw existence, he drew life. The air ignited, folding in on itself, reshaping into something vast, something alive. With a roar that shook mountains not yet named, a great winged being materialized. A creature of fire and fury, scaled like burning stone, its breath molten light, its wings forged from the hottest stars, the first of its kind, a drake of flame. But Pyrith was not finished. He shaped more, a second, a third, a fourth, until a host of burning leviathans filled the sky with firelight and thunder. Where Morvac's legion was silent, Pyrith's creations were loud. Where the shadows watched in cold obedience, the flame-born roared with untamed will. They were not servants. They were weapons. And they were alive. The cosmos trembled. Morvac's legion lifted their hollow gazes, not in fear, for fear was yet soft and new, but in recognition. Their shadowed eyes reflected flame. Their stillness weighed against fire's chaos. Two forces now existed not by accident, but in opposition. And the universe understood. Balance had ended. Zephyra drifted high above the gathering armies, her form dissolving into vapor and returning again as if unable or unwilling to hold shape. Her whisper rolled across existence. So, the cycle begins. Tyrannus watched from afar, still, patient, as mountains formed and broke beneath his presence. If fire and shadow sought dominion, then winter, the slow, inevitable erasure of flame and life, would one day have reason to rise. But that time was not yet. For now, only two forces moved. Fire that refused to kneel, shadow that demanded obedience. Pyrith's voice, not spoken but felt, rumbled across the cosmos. Existence does not bow. Morvac answered in silence, a silence so deep that even flame flickered in hesitation. Then, a single shadow from his legion stepped forward, not hostile, not afraid, merely acknowledging that recognition had become conflict. The first confrontation between created wills had arrived. The Titans stood in stillness, two forces learning a truth mortals one day would carve into scripture. Power divides, and once divided, it hungers. The stars dimmed, the drakes growled, the shadows leaned, and the cosmos whispered to itself, the first war is no longer possibility. It is destiny. There was no signal, no decree, no spoken beginning to what followed. The universe did not ease into conflict. It fractured. A single spark began the unraveling, small, insignificant in appearance, yet carrying the weight of inevitability. One of Pyrith's drakes, its wings burning with the fury of 1,000 newborn suns, descended toward Morvac's legion, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with the primal insistence that flame must burn what stands in its path. Its roar was the first sound to challenge the silence of creation. The shadows did not retreat. They did not posture. They simply waited. The drake lunged flame surging from its maw, a torrent powerful enough to melt mountains unborn. The nearest shadow being shifted, not moving aside, not resisting but becoming absence. The fire struck emptiness, not space, not void. A concept null. The flame guttered, distorted, and then impossibly died. The drake froze mid-flight, chest convulsing, wings faltering. For the first time in all of existence, living creation understood limitation. A shadow reached forward, slow, inevitable, and pressed its hand against the creature's burning skull. Fire screamed, light fractured, wings collapsed into ash, and then everything became silent again. Not the silence of peace, but the silence that follows a boundary no longer recognized. The other drakes reacted not with fear, but instinctual, furious retaliation. Flames erupted, wings thundered, the sky ignited into a storm of molten fury. Shadows rose to meet them, shifting between substance and nothing, absorbing, smothering, overwhelming. The collision was not battle, it was cosmic contradiction. Fire, movement, chaos, hunger, shadow, stillness, obedience, inevitability. Their clash ruptured the fabric of reality. The sky split like tearing cloth. Light and darkness bled outward, ripping existence into three spheres: the realm of flame and becoming, future, chaos, potential; the realm of shadow and stillness, memory, obedience, dominion; and an in-between realm, where all things are decided. This rupture would one day be named in 1,000 mortal tongues: the veil, the rift, the border beyond stars. But in that moment, it was simply survival, for reality could no longer contain both forces within a single unbroken plane. Above the chaos, the Titans watched, not intervening, not restraining. They observed, ancient expressions unreadable, yet their presence is heavy enough to bend the air around them. Zephyra, drifting between the rifts of sky, spoke the first true warning ever carried on wind. Creation has chosen violence. Tyrannus closed his massive eyes, and frost formed at his feet, not from cold, but from inevitability. For winter always comes after fire and shadow exhaust themselves. And Morvac did not move, but the shadows around him deepened, as though preparing to claim what fire had challenged. Pyrith's flames surged higher, his fury trembling through galaxies. The Titans did not yet fight one another, but the first blow had been struck, not by their hands, but by their legacy. And the cosmos understood what mortals would one day fear. War does not begin when swords are forged, but when something worth ruling exists. The sky remained torn, reality remained divided, and the whisper of prophecy stirred again. Where existence splits, fate follows. Where fate follows, endings awaken. And endings remember their beginning.